We are finally getting a Women's Intercontinental Championship, and it is so long overdue, but it was announced on Monday Night Raw that we are going to get an Intercontinental Championship tournament for the women's division, and like I said, incredibly long overdue. The women deserve it. We absolutely need to see more women's wrestling on Monday Night Raw in the mid-card, building up stars for the future, and that's exactly what's going to happen here with the Intercontinental Championship. But I asked you over on Twitter to submit all of your predictions for who could be the first ever women's IC champion, and there was a lot of great picks in there. But before we get into this thing, make sure you leave a like on this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, and keep coming back every single day because we upload wrestling videos every single day. All right, let's get into this thing. So starting off with easily the most submitted name, Zelina Vega. So many people want to see Zelina Vega be the first ever women's Intercontinental champion, and honestly, I get it. She's been there forever. Like, she started out as a manager alongside of Andrade back in NXT when it was NXT Black and Gold. And outside of becoming Queen of the Ring and becoming tag team champions, we really haven't seen too much from Zelina Vega, and not from a lack of trying. Like, she has done everything she possibly can to try to get over, and she has to an extent. She had the greatest match of her career against Rhea Ripley in Puerto Rico, and that was such a fun moment for her. But outside of that, we haven't really seen too much go right for Zelina Vega. And Zelina Vega is somebody who would benefit so much from the Women's Intercontinental Championship because it actually gives her a direction, it gives her the ability to put on some great matches and to get over with a wider fan base. In so many ways, Zelina Vega is becoming the Rey Mysterio of the women's division, just without a mask, and if we could give her a solid Intercontinental Championship reign, I think a lot more people would put respect on Zelina's name. She's a great athlete, a great performer, excellent on the microphone, has literally everything that it takes to be a star. So why not put the Intercontinental Championship on Zelina Vega and watch her run with it? It's going to grow to new heights just because she's that damn good. But how about Lyra Valkyria for the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion? I honestly love this idea for the Bird Lady because she could absolutely tear the house down with nearly anybody on the main roster. And the fact that we haven't been able to get a lot of momentum for Lyra yet is a damn travesty. Like, she was looking so good in the Queen of the Ring tournament, going all the way to the finals and taking on Nia Jax before taking that L. And I thought big things were in store for Lyra Valkyria, but it's been cooled off a little bit since then. But the women's Intercontinental title would be the perfect place for her to go right here and start elevating the title, elevating herself, and elevating everybody else around her. Like, if you haven't got the chance to watch Lyra Valkyria's matches down in NXT, definitely go out of your way to check them out because she's a fantastic talent. She can work babyface, she can work heel, and she's got so much potential for the main roster. Like, I legitimately believe in a year's time, we will be talking about Lyra Valkyria as a world title contender. And honestly, you could say that she could be in that conversation right here, right now, with how she performed in the Queen of the Ring tournament. She beat some very talented people in that ring. So Lyra Valkyria, her time is coming, and it would be an excellent starting point with her as the Women's Intercontinental Champion. Now, the one thing going against Lyra Valkyria is that she hasn't been there as long as some other people on the main roster. People like Dakota Kai, who have been there for a long time, maybe deserve the opportunity a little bit more. Like, let's face it, Dakota Kai would make an incredible first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. She's got so much history with a bunch of people on the roster. Like, can you imagine going up against anybody in Damage Control, whether that be Io Sky, Asuka, Kairi Sane? You could run it back with Bayley. Hell, if you wanted to, you could go way back to their deep roots in NXT and have Raquel Rodriguez go up against Dakota Kai and really lean into that story again. And like, you know, Dakota Kai would crush it in this role. She's barely been able to get matches on TV through all these years, and she's dealt with so many injuries that you just have to feel bad for her. But she's been grinding and pushing and clawing her way back up the card that I think this could be the time that she shines. It would also be a different feel to Damage Control, as we haven't really seen Dakota Kai step too far out of that like speaking role. Now this would put her into like this leader role, and it would be really interesting to see how the rest of Damage Control operates while she's kind of acting as like the de facto leader because she's got a title. Did I say the right word? De facto? De facto? De facto. English with con. And like, Dakota Kai is incredibly talented in the ring as well, so you can expect great matches against literally anybody, but it's going to be a fun ride if she does win the Intercontinental Championship, and seeing her name as the first ever IC champion would be just, it'd be so good. But talking talking about veterans and talking about people who deserve more respect on their name, how about Natalya? Natalya has been around forever, and people still don't put respect on her name the way that it should be. Like, I see so many people groaning and moaning every time that they see Natalya, but dude, Natalya is a future Hall of Famer. She's absolutely incredible, and she's one of the most trusted people in WWE for training literally anybody. And yeah, she has won lots of titles through the years, but seeing Natalya win the Intercontinental Championship and go on a great run, creating a legacy for the title and putting over a younger talent in the end would be great TV. And just imagine Natalya doing the Intercontinental Championship Open Challenge or something like that. Literally anybody could step up and it would have meaning, and Natalya's at her best when her matches have meaning. Well, you could argue that for literally any wrestler, but still, she just has a way of elevating her game and elevating the other person's game who is wrestling her. Natalya could very well be the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion, and if anything, I'd love to see her in the finals of the IC title tournament. But what about Shayna Baszler as the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion? I honestly don't hate the idea of the women's Intercontinental Championship going to the PFC in some way. Like, I really do think that that faction needs something to help build them some momentum, but Shayna Baszler holding onto the title would be an intriguing thing. Like, we saw that she can have a great run as a champion down in NXT when she was the NXT champion 2 times, and I wonder if the Intercontinental Championship would elevate Shayna Baszler back to being that badass that we knew from NXT. But if we're talking about the PFC and who we think could actually be the Intercontinental Champion from the PFC, I think it's got to be Sonya Deville. Now, Sonya Deville is kind of like the leader of the group, and Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark are more so like the tag team of the group. And if we really want to get that momentum on the PFC, imagine putting the tag team titles on Shayna and Zoe and having the Intercontinental Championship on Shayna Baszler. I think that would do wonders for the group, and it would really, really help elevate them. And Sonya Deville, you know, she could benefit from being the first ever women's IC champion as well. Like, she's got a great resume. Why not put the IC title on it as well? But what about Kairi Sane? She could be a great choice for the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. I mean, we haven't seen too much from her since coming back, and she's kind of faded into the background of Damage Control and hasn't at all been the focus of it. It's been the focus around Bayley, Io, hell, even Asuka, but Kairi, not so much. And like, the stories that can come out of Kairi Sane winning the Intercontinental Championship could be very entertaining. Imagine if Io Sky starts to get jealous because Kairi Sane is seeing some sort of success, and then we get Io versus Kairi for the Intercontinental title. I really like that idea. And hell, it could even be Kairi Sane is the baby face of this entire story, and you have Damage Control go as heel. Imagine Dakota Kai against Kairi. Imagine Asuka against Kairi. Imagine literally anybody. You could dial back Bayley if you wanted to. This would work. And it would also be different. Not a lot of people would expect Kairi Sane to be the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. I imagine that she's more likely going to be down the line a champion as opposed to being the first ever one. But hey, you never know, and Kairi Sane would be an excellent option to carry the title. But you know who we need? We need Charlotte Flair. Oh my god, can you imagine the internet if Charlotte Flair comes back and wins the Intercontinental title, wins the whole damn tournament? Imagine if she's just immediately inserted into the finals. Oh my god, people would lose their minds. But here's the thing, it's actually not a terrible idea seeing Charlotte Flair hold on to the Intercontinental title and be the first ever Intercontinental Champion. It would actually make the title feel so incredibly important, and people would hate it so much so that eventually the babyface who takes the title off her would get a crazy pop. And if she was to go out there and have weekly matches defending that Intercontinental title, she would elevate a lot of people as a result. Like, Charlotte Flair can go in the ring, and she has the ability to wrestle a big match. So it could be a main event on Monday Night Raw. It could be the opening match of any show. Like, Charlotte Flair would definitely carry that title and make it feel like a big deal. But here's the thing with Charlotte Flair. She's probably more suited for the main event scene than the mid-card division. Like, the way that she does carry herself brings a lot of intrigue to the main titles. So if she was going up against Nia Jax, I think that's a bigger match and a bigger use of Charlotte Flair than just going after the women's Intercontinental title. But regardless, if she happens to go after that IC championship, she could be considered a favorite. Ivy Nile as a dark horse pick to become the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion is certainly an interesting idea. I don't hate the idea of using the IC title to elevate talent that are on like kind of the lower card, if you will. And Ivy Nile has a ton of potential, but she's just trying to put it all together. And if Ivy all of a sudden became the focus of American Made with her having the women's IC championship and Gable trying to coach her up the card and then having the Creed brothers be the distraction on the outside, it'd be a nice flip of roles, and it would be something that would bring a lot of attention to the women's IC championship. And every time that Ivy Nile is in the ring, she gets better and better, so having her go out there and perform week after week defending this title, going up against some great talent, might be an excellent way to build her up. She's got the look to be successful, and I think she's incredibly talented in the ring as well. So as long as she's able to put all these pieces together, she'd make a great women's Intercontinental Champion. The only thing about this pick, though, is it feels like she would benefit from some more building up right now. I don't know if you could have her go into the women's IC title tournament and just win the whole thing outright and then be a bigger star. Like, I still think there's a lot of momentum that needs to be built up for her. She needs to have more matches like the one against Zelina Vega on Monday Night Raw, just so that people are truly behind Ivy Nile. Great talent, lots of potential, but I see her being an IC champion a little bit down the line. Okay, and if you thought people were going to be pissed off at Charlotte Flair winning the title, what about Rhea Ripley walking out as the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion? Dude, and this photo that this guy just put right here shows Rhea Ripley winning back the women's world title as well. Imagine Rhea as the world champion and the IC champion. Oh, the internet would have a field day. But hey, it certainly would garner attention. A lot of people would take note of Rhea Ripley as the Intercontinental Champion, and I don't hate the potential matchups we could have as long as it kept her separate from like Liv Morgan. But if she wins back that world title, I don't see her being separated from Liv Morgan. It's a crazy concept. It's one that I really don't see happening. Like, just straight up, it's not gonna happen, chat. Now, one person who could win the Intercontinental Championship is Alba Fyre. Her time on the main roster has been strange. She was called up from NXT as one half of the tag team champions. Then she was in a unification match against the main roster tag team champions, and then lost those tag team championships, but then ended up winning them back at a later time. It's been a very strange run. I mean, we can say that they won the tag team titles back because they were in Glasgow, and like that's fair. It's the hometown crowd. But she's got so much talent. She's been a champion everywhere that she has went, and everybody who has seen Kaylee Ray on the independent scene knows what she brings to the table. Alba Fyre would crush it as the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. And anytime that somebody wins a title in a tag team, there's always that risk of there being a split or a feud happening over the title or something like that. But I do believe that the experiment of the Unholy Union is probably coming close to its end. And I think Kaylee Ray, or I guess Alba Fyre, I should say, and Isla Dawn have so much more potential as single stars. If they feuded over the Women's Intercontinental Championship, it could be a great way to build up both of them at the same time. Now, one person who could actually be in contention for the Women's Intercontinental title is a returning Alexa Bliss. Now, this is pure speculation as I have no idea what the status of Alexa Bliss actually is. But if she is ready to come back to WWE, if they're just waiting for an opportunity to reinsert her back into the women's division, I think the return of the goddess Alexa Bliss to the women's division as the Intercontinental Champion could be great for TV. Because we know everybody's going to want to cheer Alexa Bliss when she comes back, and unless you involve her directly with the Wyatt 6 storyline, you gotta distance yourself from that if you're not going to have her be directly involved. So her bringing back the goddess character could be very interesting, or hell, bring back an entirely new character, be the next evolution of Alexa Bliss, and let her run through the women's division as the Intercontinental Champion. I know lots of people would love it, and it would certainly get a lot of people talking and probably bring some eyes back to WWE TV. So what do you think about Alexa Bliss being the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion? Do you think that it's just a waste? Do you think that somebody who is younger or somebody who hasn't had an opportunity at the top should get this opportunity? Or do you need a veteran to be able to elevate that title? Let me know. Raquel Rodriguez as the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion is certainly an interesting idea. Hopefully if she does become the IC champ, that she's a better champion than she is a bodyguard, because holy, she be bad at that. Like, I think she's in contention for the worst bodyguard in the history of WWE. Facts are facts, okay? She gets beat up all the time and she runs away from most fights alongside of Liv Morgan. She is not an effective bodyguard, but she could be a really effective champion, and I think that Raquel Rodriguez has a lot to offer to the main roster. Not only is she big and intimidating, but she's also incredibly strong, and the feats of strength that we've seen from her down in NXT back in the day would be wonderful to see on the main roster. Hell, I would love to see a lot of matchups with her. Can you imagine her and Bianca tearing it down over the IC title? That would be crazy cool. But outside of Bianca Belair, Raquel Rodriguez would put up great matches against literally anybody. Her size and her strength create some incredibly interesting matchups, like her versus Zelina Vega could be very cool. And you guys know how much I love this word, potential, and there is a lot of untapped potential right here with Raquel. The slow build here with her and Liv might lead to more down the line, and so I wouldn't hedge my bet on Raquel Rodriguez being the first ever women's IC champion, because she's probably going to be around the world heavyweight title in the future. But if she did need some gold and they wanted to run with Raquel as the IC champ and Liv Morgan as the world champion, it would make for some great TV. Oh, and I thought people were going to be mad about Charlotte Flair. How about Becky Lynch becoming the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion, returning and winning the belt and going on and holding on to the thing for like 5 years? We will never see Becky Lynch lose again. Honestly, though, I don't hate this pick of Becky Lynch being the Intercontinental Champion. If one thing is for certain, Becky Lynch does bring a big fight feel, and she has a great way of elevating literally anybody who steps into the ring with her. So going as the Intercontinental Champion for a little bit wouldn't be a bad thing, but she does need to lose the title eventually, and she needs to drop it to somebody, so I wonder who she would put over. Now, here's the thing. This is me making a joke right here. Becky Lynch absolutely puts a lot of people over. Hell, we just look back in recent history. She put over Liv Morgan. She put over Tiffany Stratton, okay? Like, she does her job when she needs to. And when it's the right time to put somebody over, she does. So maybe building her up as a long-term IC champion and then having a new young wrestler come up and take that from her could be a great way to do it. Like, what if that young wrestler was Jaida Parker coming up from NXT? What if it's Jaida who somehow wrestled her way into the Intercontinental Championship scene? Like, that is a matchup that would be intriguing, Becky versus Jaida. And if Becky dropped the title to her, great. But, like, also, what about just calling up Jaida and having her win the title right from the get-go? I know that she's got a little bit of green still in her, meaning that she is still new to the ring. But every time she's on the screen, she captivates. She commands the screen. She absolutely makes you pay attention to everything that she does. And if her matches against Mia Yim, amongst others, don't win you over, then I don't know what will. She's a great talent with so much, once again, here's the word, potential. But I think that she could absolutely benefit the main roster, and hell, she would probably benefit being the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. It's definitely a stretch. It's definitely a long shot, and I don't actually see it happening. But eventually, Jaida Parker, I do believe, will be called up to the main roster, and she'll probably be a champion sooner after that. Maxxine Dupri is also a potential candidate for the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. Now, I don't have her high on my list of candidates, but if one thing is for certain, she's been getting a little more screen time, and every time that she's out there, she is improving vastly. So I don't hate the idea of her going through the tournament, maybe being an underdog the entire way, and then pulling it off in the end. It could be a pretty great story, honestly. And this would be like a sink or swim type of opportunity for Maxxine. Like, we know that she's progressing in the ring and she's getting better every single time she's out there. But imagine if she just absolutely tore the house down and was a surprise as the women's IC champion. And all of a sudden people are like, hey, Maxxine is like a legitimate prospect here in WWE who could maybe rise up to the world title scene. That's what could be on the line for Maxxine if she was the Intercontinental Champion. I don't hate that idea, and I don't hate seeing what we have in Maxxine. And it would also be one of those picks that not a lot of people see coming. So again, seeing her be that underdog in the tournament would be wonderful. The more that I talk talk about this, the more I kind of want to see it. And last but not least, I wonder what Kiana James is up to these days, and I wonder if WWE is actually considering her for the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. They called her up from NXT with essentially no plan, and she's been gone for a little bit. I actually don't know the status of her, if she's injured or if there's something else going on, but I'm just talking about like if she is good to actually come back to WWE. Like legitimately no idea if she is or not. But if they brought her back in a big way and they highlighted her in the tournament, I could see Kiana James actually capturing the title and starting to showcase what Kiana is all about. She's a great talent with a lot of potential. Again, there's that word. So much potential. So much potential. But if WWE just wants to see what they have in her, I can totally understand why they'd be like, hey, here's the title. Let's see what you got. But if I missed any other names, let me know down in the comments who you think should be the first ever Women's IC Champion. I feel like I just said that sentence a lot. IC Champion, Intercontinental Champion. Good Lord, dude. I'm going to be dreaming about the IC title all night long, aren't I? But if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like on it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, and make sure you come back every single day because we upload wrestling videos every single day. Thanks for watching and have a good one.